In August, members of the Green Party of England and Wales will vote on a number of available positions within the party, including a new leadership team. I recently sat down with Rachel Millward to chat about her campaign for the deputy leadership position. This is what she had to say. I am now joined by deputy leadership hopeful for the Green Party, Rachel Millward. Rachel, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. Really
It's all
nice.
right. As I've been saying to everyone, it's really nice that you've been able to make the time for us. We're really grateful to have all candidates taking part in these interviews. So thank you so much. Just before we kick off with the the gritty stuff, let's just start with a little bit about you. Tell us, away from the Green Party, who you are, what you like to do, and help us get to know you a bit.
Okay, so I currently live in Sussex, but I've also lived in London for many years, Brighton, born in the Midlands of Northern parents. But I my sort of professional background is arts and cultural leadership. So I guess the thing that I did that I'm most proud of is I set up an international women's film festival called Bird's Eye View Film Festival. I started that when I was in my 20s. It was an amazing journey actually, because at the time feminism was not cool. In fact, like none of my peers were even interested in it. I'd been in South Africa studying at the African Gender Institute at the University of Cape Town. I was studying a gender analysis of the politics and theory of development, and so I was kind of fully versed in my feminisms. But I kind of came back from that with a really strong desire to work for equality here, um, rather than go somewhere else. Actually, do the work that needs to be done here. And I was also torn whether to work in the creative sector or kind of not-for-profit type stuff. And so it
And
combined.
it, Sorry to jump in on you. It's interesting that you say that because so many of the candidates have got a background in the creative industries. I'm an actor by trade myself,
Yeah.
and I'm really interested in this sort of link between the creative industries, the creative arts, and at the very least, left wing politics
Hmm.
and activism. What do you think that link is, and why do you think that so many creatives also happen to be getting involved in left wing
Well,
politics?
for me, the driving force for setting up what was Bird's Eye View, it's now called Reclaim the Frame, the thing for women filmmakers, was because at the time only 7% of filmmakers were women. So it was like inequality is a problem. You're missing half the picture if 90% of films you're watching are made by men. And so it was really about telling that story, about kind of developing a narrative, and it was a campaign. I mean, I had masses of fun curating amazing programs at BFI South Bank and other kind of big venues to tour the country and stuff. It went really, really well, and I was fundraising, curating, commissioning this kind of thing. But it was it was a campaign. It was about wanting change and actually centering that conversation within the film industry, which we did do, and then kind of really, spreading that to audiences. And we had really wide audiences and making it kind of relevant to everybody. So it was in a way inherently political. And when I stopped doing that, people were like, "Oh, you're gonna try and like go and direct the Edinburgh Film Festival or something?" And I was like, genuinely not interested. Like, as in, I have loved doing this in film, but I'm all about the change and the challenging inequality, and that's what drove it for me.
Yeah.
Um,
So actually, it's almost been the other way. It's been using the creativity for the activism rather than, I
for
suppose,
me,
the opposite.
yeah, like it's very kind of they call it instrumentalism, don't they? It's like using art for a different end, but that's not how I feel about art. Like, as in, my favorite at the moment, I've got this on my wall actually. Bob and Roberta Smith say, "Where there is art, there is hope," or "There is still art, there is still hope," and I kind of really believe that. It's like I couldn't. I mean, none of us could live without it. But hope's a major theme for me politically as well. Um, but there's nothing. I mean, there's what you can communicate through the arts. And I just think this of film, but I think this of all arts and all media really is that you can step inside someone else's shoes and you can see the world from their perspective. So if you're interested in politics, really, that's a lot of that is what it's about, isn't it? Like, I'm interested in the experience of people who are quite different from me, who don't have the privileges I have, or who don't have different experiences. And the arts helps you do that. It's like I was watching Kay Tempest set at Glastonbury, like in floods of tears. I mean, he is phenomenal. I've always adored Kay Tempest, but to have somebody articulate in such a beautiful way, like what it means to have a first person experience in your own body and just to kind of watch that show unfold is like that's more powerful than reading a trans rights manifesto. So this is sort of hearts and minds, and I think it's I don't know, it's deeply what makes me tick.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's really interesting. So obviously, cards on the table. I'm a member of the Green Party.
Mhm.
I haven't yet decided how I'm going to vote in the deputy leadership. So, tell me why I should vote for you.
Well, you should vote for me because I've got lots of leadership experience. I've just told you about setting up a film festival, and developing a movement, developing a narrative, making difference, making change. I led other arts organisations after that, but I've now, well, I switched between leading and deputy leading, so I kind of co-lead a district council. So I've pivoted
Hmm.
into politics, and the experience of doing that, again, we've come in after 50 years of Tory domination, and I don't just mean like
Yeah.
them winning, them having total domination. So it's at this point of radical change, and so what I love is being in a position of leadership when an organization is at a tipping point and changing, and when there's a need to really kind of scale up and go to the next step. And that's what I love, that challenge. And I know how to do that. I like to kind of make things happen, to
Hmm.
create the alliances, and to get the thing, internal alliances are still real, to kind of to get the strategy right, to kind of get something everyone's behind, to keep focused on that, to drive for change. And I kind of understand how to do that. I think also, the moment we're in is so specific, isn't it? The far right are actually here. They're literally on the sofa. I had this experience at the BBC where they're literally on the sofa with us. It's a
Hmm.
totally different thing. We've been making steady, incremental, solid growth for years, and that's wonderful, and we should feel really proud of that. But if reform come in at the scale that it seems like they're going to, and which in some places they already are, it's not about incremental. We have to
Hmm.
the threat of that and the opportunity of that is massive. And what I think is that we have such extraordinary popular policies. We actually have the answers that everyone's looking for. We have this hope. I really mean it. But for some reason, we haven't been communicating it. We're not breaking out with that. And I think I can really help with that. We need people who
Yeah.
communicate, on those political sofas, on social media, on the doorstep, in speeches, different ways. And it's like telling that story. And that's kind of what I love, is just
Hmm.
engaging with people and telling that story, and embedding that across the whole organization. It's not
Yeah.
about the individual.
And you've mentioned quite a few things there that I'll come back to. One of them, though, interestingly, you mentioned about reform and the fact that they are very much here. Back in April, current co-leader Adrian Ramsey, who obviously is standing for re-election again alongside Ellie Chowns this time,
Mm.
he took to Twitter to say that, like the BNP and UKIP, Reform UK will disappear once voters realise what they really stand for. Do you agree with that statement?
That would be great, wouldn't it? That would be great. And maybe when, I mean, like, they just took over Kent County Council right next door to us with this massive landslide of 57, and um, I think it's chaos. But what I'm seeing is very clever comms. I mean, Nigel Farage pops in person. They take these glossy videos. They do literally nothing at council. I think they only do terrible, chaotic things. And yet these glossy videos, like, we're here, we're on our 60th day, we're kind of sorting it out, we're doing this. So I don't know. I think the illusion is pretty serious, and actually, I kind of think would be naive to underestimate them. Um, we narrowly won a by-election last week, which we had a clear majority. We were trying to keep a seat because someone had to resign. We had a clear majority before. We won it by 50 votes. That's way too close for comfort. And before, we were hundreds of votes ahead. And reform, in canvassing, it wasn't that clear. Some people were like, "Oh, it's going to be fine." I was like, "No, I don't think it's like that." I think the rules of the game have changed. New people are out voting. I think we underestimate them at our peril. But I think there's an opportunity, isn't it? Two-party politics crumbling. Let's
Yeah.
let's go get it. Everyone.
Yeah, the political climate has certainly changed a lot. Even I would argue since the general election of last year. Even in the last 12 months, I
Oh
think
yeah.
things have changed quite significantly.
Yeah.
Obviously, for those of people that are watching that don't know, the three leadership candidates, we've got Zach Polanski, who's standing on his own, and then Ellie Chowns and Adrian Ramsey. Adrian obviously is current co-leader with Carla Denny. She's stepping down, and he's standing again with Ellie Chowns, and they're running on a joint ticket. But that means, because of the way that the Green Party works, that we'll either end up in a situation where we've got one leader and two deputies, or where we've got two co-leaders, in which case the deputy role will go to one person. If it's the former, and we're in a situation where you find yourself being elected alongside another one of the deputy leadership candidates, how will you work successfully with the other candidate, despite any differences in ideology or policy ideas that you may have?
I'd be really excited about that. I really, really genuinely look forward to that. I'm leading in partnership at the moment. I'm co-leading with someone from a different party, because we're in alliance in Wielden, and I think it can work fantastically well. I mean, you need to be clear about what your goals are. You need to be clear about where the crossover is. You need to be clear about, where you particularly want to focus, and you communicate. But I mean, I don't know. I just think it's great. I love collaborating. I love working in teams, and I think you could get more done with two people. But I think you
Mhm.
complementary, and I think you would figure that out and actually could find it massively enhance the job, but also enhances what you can deliver. Really, I just
Yeah, and if it's the latter, and Ellie and Adrian get elected, and you're elected on your own, how do you feel, about working with any differences that you may have with those two? Same answer, or
in terms of having the job solo. I mean, I've done that before too. Led things solo,
yeah,
led things in partnership. This is fine. It's just a different thing. You get adjusted to it, and I guess whoever the leaders are, you build relationship and you work out what your specific roles are. I mean, they're quite different jobs, but I think that we're in a situation where the shape of the leadership and the deputy leadership will be quite different depending on who wins. So,
yeah,
but that's what we're up for. I think,
yeah,
figure that.
brilliant. Obviously, you've mentioned about your role within the council, and it sounds like you're doing quite a lot successfully as well within the council, which is great to hear. If you're elected into this position, how will you balance those two roles and be able to continue serving the local people that you serve on the council, whilst also finding time to
Mm.
deputy lead an even bigger up and coming, because I like to think that we can officially say the Green Party is one of the big parties
Yeah.
now more than ever. How are you going to balance those two roles?
I don't think that's problematic. I think it's not the deputy leadership isn't meant to be a full time job, and actually, nor is leading a district council. Neither of them are paid full time, and really you wouldn't expect them to be. I think that's totally fine. They're complementary to me. They're both, yeah, they're different headspaces, but they're kind of very complementary. I don't know what to say about that really. I mean, most people would lead a district council and have another job. In fact, most people do, and I'm sharing that, and then have the time to do this.
Um, I noticed that you talked briefly in your blurb. I don't know what else to call it. Your statement on the Green Party website.
Mm,
You talk about some of your work and some of your sort of past involvements in different things. You mentioned Extinction Rebellion on there.
mm,
You also mentioned that you studied at Oxford University,
mm,
and I wonder there's often a slight sort of preconception of the Green Party as being very white, very middle class.
mm,
And I wonder whether you think that maybe sort of your past, as an Oxford University graduate, and also as a member of Extinction Rebellion, which also comes with some of those same sort of preconceptions of
mm,
class.
mm.
Do you think that that prevents you from sort of understanding the issues that working class people face, or do you think it maybe puts you in a different perspective to maybe others?
I think it's a totally fair question. I'm sure you won't be the last person to ask it. I mean, I definitely have had all sorts of privilege in my life. There's no pretending that I haven't. I guess you kind of can't control the hand you're given in life, but you control what you do with it. It's who you serve and what you're trying to do. And I'm interested in kind of countering inequalities, and I think the Green Party is a brilliant movement to do that. I mean, what else would I say? I would say that I'm not interested in growing a party for people like me. I'm just like, that's not interesting. I totally agree that there are too many people who look and sound like me in the Green Party in terms of we don't have balance and diversity. I'm genuinely excited to grow the party beyond that. So I take sort of diversity really seriously in that, not in a box ticky way, but in a kind of you invest in that. You
But do you see it almost more as because you recognise that you've got that privilege, that you're able to use that to lift other voices?
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, as I say, I kind of after going to Oxford, I went to the African Gender Institute in the University of Cape Town and was like in the political South, like looking at what the West had done in development and how the negatives of that, and actually ripping into Britain and the States from the perspective of these 9 women from 9 different African countries, kind of like, yeah, like I'm fully aware of my privilege in that sense. And yes, it's therefore absolutely a priority to raise up other voices and to raise people from all backgrounds. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need a strategic, committed approach to that. It takes investment, it takes commitment. It doesn't just happen by who you select at the ballot box, it happens by a kind of really conscious approach. So it's when you're devising, say, campaign strategy, or we're looking at a new campaign, is who do you get in the room? And you get in the room people who've had massive success at opening stuff out beyond people like me or any specific group, and that's really really important to me. And like I think that the party should be sort of stretching to a way that people like me sometimes feel slightly uncomfortable and say like, oh, we're not in the middle anymore, that's good, like let's bring that on and let's pass it on. This is a kind of relay race of leadership. This isn't about people gaining positions. I mean, I'm serving the Green Party insofar as the Green Party serves communities and nature, right? Not in and of itself. So yeah, if I can help at this point of expansion, kind of build that stuff into strategies and help it grow well, then you pass it on.
Yeah, one of the other misconceptions, and I say it is a misconception because I've seen the strength of the Green Party in the north of England, but one of the other misconceptions a lot of people have is that it's very south heavy. We've got lots of target seats in the south. We've got pretty much all four southern MPs, certainly compared to where I am in the northwest anyway, and I'm interested to know what you would do as someone else who's obviously, you in the South, you're elected in the South. What would you do to give the North a bigger voice within the party and to sort of help amplify Northern voices?
Well, I guess I'd say the same answers to any other group. You do a lot of listening and you make sure you get people in the room and you're kind of proactive about expanding the party in those areas. And that's just sort of something that you would prioritize and you would do.
hmm Brilliant. I also want to ask, there's a lot of talk about target to win within the Green Party, which for people watching that don't know, it's an electoral strategy that we use that has worked quite successfully in getting people elected.
Yeah.
Do you think that the party need to stick to target to win as it is to the letter, or do you think it's time to find another way of campaigning that can work alongside target to win,
Mm.
to reach new voices and to sort of spread our roots a little bit further?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think any target to win has served us very well. Like
hmm
a lot of us here because of it, it's like won a lot of seats, it's done really well. But I don't think there's any growing organisation or successful organisation that has grown dramatically, which stuck to one strategy religiously. That's just not how you do strategic planning. So every time internal situation changes and external situation changes, you should have a refresh and just sort of think again. Actually, look at the data. What do we need right now? And making sure we're getting community engagement right, so not just neighborhood based but more like that's an important part of that. So I think maybe
hmm
there is but I don't think you don't shut the baby out of the bathwater. Again, it's about refreshing strategy and doing the
Yeah.
right thing for the next step. The type of scaling up we're talking about, the methods we used at the last general election wouldn't work at that scale. So we don't have a choice actually. If we want to grow, and I think we need to, and we talked about reform, etc., at some scale and really kick up some gears, then we have to rethink how do we do this? What does it take? And look from there. So that's the kind of conversation I'd be really excited to be a part of. But I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't want to pluck any ideas out of my head and say that's the way, because that isn't how I'd approach anything. It's
No.
about bringing the right people into the room.
But
And
I think you recognise that the type of scaling up that we need to do, like you say, won't work if we just stick to what we've already done before. Despite the success of Target to Win, which has been great. I mean, we've got 4 elected MPs, we've got over 850 councillors. It has been incredible. But I think you recognise the need for something that can work a little bit faster. I think.
it's about scale. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things you could say about scale, but yeah, I think as I say, I think it's a normal part of organizational growth. You just reassess the strategy for where you're at now.
Yeah,
You don't have one thing working forever. Otherwise, you kind of tail down. Whereas what you want to do is this keep going,
they keep going up.
keep
Yeah.
reinventing it, keep it fresh.
We got a question from TikTok from Leo, who asked, in an age where online communication is so integral,
Mm.
what's your aim for social media campaigns, and how will you make them successful?
Good question. I think what's interesting here is this relates to how I think about comms across the party. So, obviously, I love communicating myself, but it's really about how we embed it right the way across the party. And it seems to me there's a lot of things we could do. So I'm going to talk slightly more broadly, but social media comes into it. There's a lot of things we could do, which again are about scaling up. So the way I see scaling up is like you need to have a really effective kind of top down in order to have a really effective bottom up. And we need to kind of improve that. So I think we could do a lot more the type of things like toolkits and how-to videos and easy stuff that goes member to member, party to party, where we're just sort of, this is how you can do this. This is how you can do this. And also,
And just to clarify, Rachel, sorry, you mean internally, so like showing other candidates and other people within the party how to make an effective social media video, for example, or how to
yeah,
effectively
so you
campaign.
could do peer-to-peer stuff. So you could
Yeah,
easily have a Teams video once a month on creating your social media, and you get kind of different person each time who is really particularly good at it, and they go, "This is kind of how I do it." Like just demystify it, open up this thing. These are the do's and don'ts. Like this is the thing. Let's get it from like decent to actually really quite engaging. Like just show you how to do it, and then you could have the comms people from various parties, like the local party officer people joining that and learning and kind of upskilling all the time, and you can just have a peer support thing that doesn't cost anything and it's easy to do and it gets us all better at learning and that's a really important thing to do, but also just simple toolkits. I mean, this is the same for all kinds of things across the local party. We have these field organizers, but they have like vast territory. It's impossible for them to be everywhere individually, so having more like toolkits, videos, downloadable resources, all this kind of thing is it's top down, but it's supporting that bottom up. And I think that applies to comms and just like getting comms training in, and it applies to social media as well as broadcast and everything that we need.
yeah. I think your answer to this next question might come back to comms. Let's see. There's lots of rumours at the moment about a new party of the left, potentially to be co-led by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. Recent polling suggests that support for this party not only being significantly high to the point where it has this party that doesn't even exist yet, neck and neck with Labour in terms of percentage of support. But it also shows that it would take a big hit from the Green Party, certainly a significant one, given we're looking to grow and try and reach more voters. Why do you think it is that so many people who are really, really eager for a new left-wing party and for something to come along and fill the gap that many say was left by Jeremy Corbyn's Labour? Why do you think so many of those people are unable to find that home in the Green Party to the point where they're willing to vote for a party that as of yet doesn't even exist over one that not only exists but has got a track record of winning?
So the first thing I'd say is that when I looked at this, there was a Stats for Lefties thing, which is talking about the impact this party would have. And actually, I thought that it was, I didn't really see it as taking masses from the Greens. I saw the Greens as kind of still being a more popular party. And I do want to say first that I think our vision and our offer is more vibrant, more progressive, more exciting, and that we should like not worry and focus on that. As in, we're not just reacting to the fact that this government's rubbish and the Labour
Yeah,
Party have gone off. We're not just that. I mean, I used to be in the Labour Party, sure, but that's not what it's about. We are the Green Party in and of itself. Um, I mean, it's such an exciting progressive vision. It's so much more than that. The fact that we have like, communities and nature and social justice and economic justice and climate justice all intertwined in our DNA. So I think we should believe in that and lean into that. And I think we have to, this kind of keeps coming back to the fact that we have yet to tell our own story, and the fact that we haven't made it clear that we are our policies are amazingly popular and they're what most people want to hear. They're what ordinary working people need to hear. It's not like kind of this sort of luxury do-gooder eco stuff. And people still think that. I mean, people still talk to me in that way sometimes, and I just kind of go, it's not a recycling party. What made you think that? That's terrible. I think that is so important. We've got such a long way to go in our comms, and yet I think we could do it really, really quickly with the right people in the room.
yeah. And how do you think we move on from that then? Because clearly, I mean, I think on last count, about 100,000 people have signed up to the Action Network list that Zara Sultana put out to support this new party of the left. You know, how do you think we reach those people effectively to say, actually, we know that you've got all your your hope pinned up on something, but actually it's already here and you can join it now, and we've got a name and we've got leaders and we've got elections coming up and we've got policies already. How do we effectively communicate that to those people?
Well, I mean, also that the thing they're signing up for, we don't quite know what it is yet, do we? We don't know the shape of it, we don't know what it is. May or may not, but they're knee jerking against something they don't like rather than for something they do. I mean, I just think this wraps up. This is tied in inherently with the mission for the next mission that we have, which is really breaking through in our communication that we are about combating inequality, because that is the root problem of everything. And I think that as we do that, this will all happen organically. I don't think we need a massive focus on it. I think it's about our own focusing on our own mission, really, and our own storytelling and getting that really clear.
Would you be willing to engage in potential conversations around alliances with such a party if it were to appear?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in an alliance at council level. I think alliances are pragmatically important and strategically important at different times, but I think they're time bound, they're boundaried. It depends on the situation, it depends what they're for. You don't kind of marry another party, but you can kind of have a fling or a short term relationship with one. It's like, you put boundaries around it, and I think that's the thing. Is it's sort of impossible. I don't think we need to be talking about that at this point personally that much, as in I think it depends on the situation, and then you look at it and you analyze the data and you very, very carefully make a decision and you understand what it is and what it isn't. Because what I'm not interested is like a joining up the parties because we have to panic about it. We're onto it. We've got a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant vision as a party. It's so progressive and it's so unique and it is deeply exciting and it is actually still untapped. Like, we've done brilliantly, but boy, can we be more popular.
And we do have our own identity, and I think it's important, like you say, that we keep that, regardless of what else pops
And
up.
it will get stronger and it will diversify, but we have not yet really clearly got the message that we're combating inequality and we're about ordinary people, we're about justice of all different kinds and how they intersect. And I think that once we tell those stories, people will go, oh yeah, I want that. That's for me. So
Brilliant. Another question from Twitter. Danica Priest has asked, how will you stand up to the property developers and the YIMBY lobby and protect our green spaces and biodiversity?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'm running a rural council, so this one comes up quite a bit. I we've got this problem that the housing crisis is so extreme, and it's so devastating. It's so central for people's standard of living and quality of life and survival, and yet we've got a planning system which just cannot solve it because it begins and ends with developers' profit. And so the houses that are built are just so unaffordable. And I think around here, the average house price is like 12 times the average salary. It's like unbelievably ludicrous. And and sadly, the system protects developers' profit over anything else. So the affordable housing just goes out the window. It's all about that. So this idea that people who campaign for nature or are trying to protect nature are the blockers of development or like don't care about housing is the joke. It's like, you don't want luxury inaffordable housing that weirdly doesn't even sell and sit there. So I'm not like destroying some greenfields for that. What we need is social housing, obviously, and like truly affordable, because affordable isn't affordable in actual fact in most places, like 20% off. So there's a whole sort of change of system that's needed there. And it's an example of where the story is just way off. The idea that it kind of NIMBY councils are stopping it. And I mean, we have thousands of unbuilt planning permissions because developers are not actually building out what's required. But we as a council, we also do have our own stock of council housing and we provide affordable housing and we want to do so much more of it. But the way the funding system has changed over the years, I mean, we just sort of can't, the way it works with the housing revenue accounts. So there needs to be a massive system change. So we're prioritising social housing for the communities. We need to be much more creative in the way that we design housing. Like, I think this is something we don't talk about enough. We need to be much, much more creative. There are people who are really cracking the idea, development that works with nature. Like, humans are actually nature, but like humans and nature together does work and we can cohabit, but you just need creativity and really good design. There are people working on that and I get the chance to talk to some of them. But But that's not what we're seeing in the mainstream of Britain. We're seeing, real lack of creativity there, which is a shame.
Mhm. And I mean, I think as well, it's trying to find that balance, isn't it, between saying yes to the developments that we actually need and that are actually going to be beneficial, but not just saying yes to them for the sake of having them. Like you say, many of the houses don't sell. I've seen a lot of houses recently listed where houses and properties or flats will be built, and then they'll be advertised as for purchase for investors only.
I mean, that's just
You know,
that's horrifying. It should never have been allowed to be the case that housing became like the equivalent of an investment, just a bank account. Just appalling. There's so much more that we can do. But social housing, of course, like why wouldn't we want? I mean, we need so much more social housing. It needs to, become much more of a normal thing, and that's just years and years and years of chronic defunding, isn't it? So there's an awful lot to do, and it is disappointing how Labour are not they're making some changes in that direction, but really not tackling the developer-led system enough. Because the developers get a guaranteed 20% profit on every single thing they do, and until we crack that, it's not going to be. That's the viability test. Uh,
Moles asked the underscore mole boy on Twitter has asked, um, what are your thoughts on the state of trans rights in the UK,
mhm.
and how would you improve life in the UK for trans people?
um, I'm I mean, I was talking about Kay Tempest at Glastonbury. I'm so supportive of trans rights, and actually, to be honest, I'm very I have huge respect for the trans community, but I'm also like I'm just super grateful for anybody who dares to follow their truth and to follow freedom. And as a feminist, and just a liberation, as a liberation movement, liberation struggle, I'm kind of like massively, wanting to be supportive and inclusive. What would I do to improve the situation for trans people? I mean, it's been a bit depressing of late, hasn't it? And I can really understand the level of kind of pain with the Supreme Court decision and the ridiculously confusing guidance. I mean, when Keir Starmer said it brings clarity, I'm just like, are you actually joking? It's like we're all confused. We're just like kind of, and we're all just, it's all the wrong focus, and it's so upsetting. So, but I think trans people need what everyone else needs. They need access to healthcare. They need access to a supportive welfare state. They need employment, education. They need to feel safe. It's so I think fighting for specific rights inclusion, but it's a troubling time. It disturbs me that it's gone as it has in this country.
One final question for you. I appreciate that Green Party policy is set by the members, as it should be. We're a very democratic party. If there was one policy of the Green Party's that you could either change, introduce that doesn't already exist, or an existing one that you could maybe adapt in some way, shape, or form, or throw it completely out the window, what would that be and why?
Um, Well, I'm glad you said that the policy comes from the party, because actually I sort of, in a way, I'm not here for a specific policy agenda, and I kind of really
Yeah.
believe in collective decision making and love that. So I kind of am quite happy to, accept the collective is stronger than my individual perspective. I mean, one thing quite close to home is that in terms of internal elections, I'm not sure about this 1 year term because particularly not if we've got a 3 month campaign period. I really question that as a use of resources when you've got a lot of key players within the party involved in this internal election, and we've pretty much got a purdah on comms, and I'm just like, why on earth would we do that every year? So that's a really simple thing where I just think that needs changing, because it's not we won't be taken seriously on the national stage if we do that, but we'd also just really damage the momentum of our campaigns. We need to be making decisions, getting the right people in the job, and then boom, let's go, and give it a run in. So
Completely agree. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for your time. People that are watching at home, if they want to know more about you, they want to find out more about the campaign
yeah,
and what you're about, where did they do that?
rachforddeputy.com. That's it.
Yeah,
rachforddeputy.com. That'll do. I mean, I'm on all the socials, various different combinations of the words Rachel Millward with
yeah,
dots and things in the wrong places. But yeah, if you search me, you'll find me on every channel. But rachforddeputy.com will take you to each as well.
perfect. Well,
Great to
thank you
meet
so much for your time. I appreciate it. It's been a lot, but it's been really really informative and really helpful for people to get to see what you're about. So thank you so much again. All the best with the campaigning, and break a leg with the election.
Thanks so much. Really lovely
See you
to chat.
again. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.